The land under present-day Riverdale Park was laid down by the same meteor impact that created the Chesapeake Bay during the Eocene period. As the continental ice sheets of the Wisconsin glacial epoch began to recede, a favorable climate and fertile soil provided a haven for the first humans who settled in this area, perhaps as early as 10,000 BC. For at least 7,000 years prior to contact with the Europeans, the woodland Algonquin tribes had communities along the Paint Branch and northeast branch of the Anacostia River. In March 1634, about 300 settlers, led by Maryland's first governor, Leonard Calvert, established Maryland as a settlement, St. Mary's City, on the Chesapeake Bay. Within 30 years, farms and plantations lined both the Patuxent and Potomac rivers. Among the many indentured servants who worked the tobacco plantations was a 6 foot 7 inch tall Scotsman named Ninian Bell. Bell rose from indentured servant to prominence and brought the extended Bell clan to Prince George's County. This clan owned most of Prince George's County and what is now Washington, D.C., including the land that became Riverdale Park. In 1794, Henry Joseph Steer and family left Belgium, fleeing the French Revolutionary Wars. With him, he brought an impressive art collection that included works by Flemish masters Rubens, Van Dyck, and Rembrandt, and the Italian Titian. After his daughter Rosalie Steer married George Calvert, delegate to the Maryland Assembly and direct descendant of the Lords Baltimore, the family decided to build a permanent home in Maryland. In 1800, at the urging of his son-in-law George Calvert, Henry Joseph Steer acquired a 729-acre parcel at auction that would become the site of Riverdale Plantation. By 1802, the political climate had changed in Belgium, and the Steers returned to their homeland. Rosalie and George Calvert moved into Riverdale. During the War of 1812, Rosalie Calvert watched from her roof as the British invaders fired Congreve rockets at the American defenders. George Calvert carried supplies to the field hospital in Bladensburg. He and his field hands buried many of the dead from the Battle of Bladensburg. Calvert's son, Charles Benedict Calvert, an agricultural innovator, is considered the father of the University of Maryland, donating Rossboro Farm in 1856. By the end of the 1800s, residents of Washington, D.C. began moving out to the previously rural areas beyond its surveyed boundary. In 1887, the original Calvert tract sold to the newly formed Riverdale Park Company. Around the turn of the century, as trolley car lines extended north into Maryland, this migration to the suburbs accelerated. With the arrival of the streetcar, Riverdale began to coalesce around the train station built by the Riverdale Park Company. More than 70 houses were built, all within walking distance of the station. Advertisements issued by the Riverdale Park Company announced that the trip from Union Station on the B&O was 17 minutes, and the trolley ride from the Treasury Department was half an hour. A streetcar stopped in Riverdale every 10 minutes. On April 17, 1920, Governor Albert C. Ritchie signed a law authorizing the residents of Riverdale to vote on articles of incorporation. The people so voted, and management by the Riverdale Park Company gave way to incorporation as a municipality. The town installed its first mayor, Samuel McMillan, and council in August 1920. As the Great Depression loomed, Riverdale was becoming a community that offered affordable housing within a convenient commute to Washington, D.C. In the late 1930s, the Airco plant, near the town's northern boundary, produced an innovative all-aluminum plane, the Air Coupe. It was a safe, easy-to-fly aircraft, certified by the Civil Aeronautics Administration as characteristically incapable of spinning. A total of 112 Air Coupes were produced in Riverdale before World War II, but by 1941, production at the plant was diverted to war-related materials, just months after the production of the airplanes was featured in the Prince George's Post as one of the county's most successful businesses. The end of World War II brought great changes to Riverdale, as it did to most of America's small towns that bordered large metropolitan areas. Young families settled in the community in record numbers. The Calvert Homes Project, meant to temporarily house war workers at the Airco plant, was given over to veterans attending the University of Maryland. Workers in the rapidly expanding federal government found Riverdale convenient to the District of Columbia. Government-secured loans to veterans with no down payment fostered development of empty parcels of land. Riverdale Park was also the home of notable artists, musicians, and poets. Juan Ramon Jimenez, a Nobel laureate in literature, lived here and was a professor at the University of Maryland. Today, the Language Building at the University of Maryland is named in his honor. In the 1950s and 60s, Riverdale Park was home to several notable pioneers of bluegrass music, including Don Reno, who is accredited with inventing a preeminent banjo style that is the defining trait of the genre. Mandolin innovator Buzz Busby called Riverdale home, as did guitarist Bill Harrell, whose father was a Riverdale councilman, and Ed Ferris of the Country Gentlemen. Gerald King moved to Riverdale in 1970 and began painting a vision of Riverdale. His works can be found throughout the town. In 1949, Riverdale owner Abraham Walter Lafferty sold the mansion to the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission for $28,000. It was used as the headquarters for the Planning Commission for the next 16 years. In the late 1950s, with the aid of Governor Theodore McKeldin, Mayor Claude Warren, the former manager of the Riverdale Park Company, worked with the Army Corps of Engineers to rechannel tributaries of the Anacostia to reduce dangerous flooding. This project created new parkland and open space for new houses and even apartment buildings. Today, the town's architecture is a mix of styles ranging from Victorian Queen Anne to mid-20th century ramblers. The town center around the train station is still the focal point for community activities. The Riverdale Park Farm Market brings the community together weekly from April to November, and the MARC train transports commuters from a lovely train station to Baltimore or Washington, D.C. A small, thriving business community surrounds the train area, supported by the Riverdale Park Business Association. Young families are moving back to the area, attracted by a core of residents who keep a vibrant community alive.